Thank you to the organizers of this event. I'm here to talk about coaching and strategic networking, how we can develop soft skills and harness opportunity. I mean, when I was tasked with this topic, it took me down memory lane. I started to reflect on my own journey as a woman in academia, and how I was able to navigate that path. And today, basically, I will be sharing mostly reflections on networking. And please feel free to join in the conversation and put comments on the chat. And I'm sure that most of you have heard about networking. A lot of you have heard about the importance of networking before. And, you know, we need to talk about this. Basically, I'm going to be sharing some insights. Since I graduated secondary school, university, did a couple of degrees. I have worked for a number of organizations. I have been on 2 for-profit boards. I have been on 3 non-profit boards. I was able to find 1 non-profit, and a lot of things have been done. And a lot of these connections were mostly made through my network. And this is some examples that I, thought to share. And the reason why women report that, networking is one of the unwritten rule of success. Whether it's business, whether be it in academia or be it in any life endeavor, networking is so important. Again, if you look at entrepreneurship, which is something that is so dear to my heart, in particular, if you look at entrepreneurs, it is very important that they network, because networking is absolutely key to their success of whatever business they are starting up. Now, that said, I can tell you that, a lot of women still don't find it difficult or find it very uncomfortable to network. And again, if we look at, young women, for myself, especially when I was very young, well, not that I'm old, well, I would say maybe in my early journey, I used to consider networking as cheating. I would just share, I want to be vulnerable, and I really want to share with you guys. And it was just that sense of, I think I'm cheating the process. Why do I have to network in order for me to go through or to get to the point where I want to get to in life? So yes, I thought about that, but again, that's kind of made me start reflecting on some of the fairy tales that we have been fed as little girls, fairy tales like, Sleeping Beauty, Cinderella, Snow White. And, they told us that if we did the right things, if we kept quiet, if we kept our head down, our Prince Charming will come, and this will be aided by a fairy godmother. And, those ideas. But we know that in reality, the princes are actually busy handing out their business cards at the bars and to their future bosses. And the fairy godmothers don't work in human resource. So that dawned on me the real importance of networking and why it is really important. But it's not just enough to network. What really matters is, how are we networking? With whom are we networking? A lot of young women also conflate networking with making friends. Because again, they think about, oh, I only have to network, or my friends are part of my network. But we also know that, your friends basically are chasing the same things as you, and sometimes you would need to step out of your close connections and make forge other connections or other network. And again, this is very challenging. Not everyone feels very comfortable to do that. Not everyone feels very comfortable to step out of their comfort zone and forge those connections. Now, as women and female migrants, sometimes we come into a country, there are a lot of things that we are thinking about. We want to settle down. We're thinking about making money. We've just started a family. Now, all of these things, life gets really busy, and we are in that phase where we are just focused trying to build a new life, that the years go by and we are not investing so much time in networking. Not that family is not important, it is really important. But I think, and this kind of echoes what Leah was saying earlier on when she was talking about fighting and building or climbing. So you are doing both, trying to juggle both all at the same time. So it's all about trying to find that balance whilst you're trying to navigate, a seemingly difficult and challenging terrain, because you don't really understand what lies ahead. But what we know, and Leah has just echoed that in her comments, is around we cannot afford to stay still. We just have to afford to we just need to get going. And that was one of the challenges that I also felt. How do I need to take time off, all of these busy schedule in order for me to network? So networking is very, very important. And for me, it is really important for me to be able to make that sort of random contact, to reach out to someone in my space and see how I can navigate that. Now, I'm not saying that you should attend every single event. I personally have had to choose the events that I feel would deliver the highest return, and I put them on my calendar. So I make steps to actually schedule them in advance. And then I don't cancel them, because sometimes you second guess yourself and you ask yourself, am I supposed to be in this event? But no, I have to go. I have to make out time. I cannot bail on that event. So that is the second mistake we as women would make. We sometimes see ourselves as inadequate in being in certain spaces, and we get uncomfortable in being in those spaces. So network, I would say, is like any good investment portfolio. The great ones have extremely high return on investment, and it's just, you just have to take the chance. And sometimes we don't. And I want to say something else. It is really important that we tend and nurture our networks. Really important, because it takes time. We have to be patient. We make new contacts. Yes, it might be a job. It might be someone you're thinking about writing a beat together or doing a project together. Yes, it takes time. Sometimes you send an email, they don't respond. And sometimes we lament over the fact that we've reached out to someone, we've reached out to a potential network, and this person is not responding. Now, something I always do, I allow maybe some time, and then I reach out again and try to reconnect to that network. So I don't give up. I don't, because somebody doesn't respond to my phone call or doesn't respond to my emails, and then I don't take the chance to go back to them again. I do. Now, just for me to summarize, because I have said quite a lot of things, the first thing I want to say is that in networking, you really need to prioritize your most important contacts. There is a lot happening on social media. You cannot afford to have all these people maybe on your LinkedIn account and all the different social media platforms that you hold. But it's about, how do you think in terms of your top 10 or your top 50 or your top 100? And then you begin to think about, how can I devote more time and energy to the top 10 persons on my list? Okay, and it could be anything. But first of all, I mean, just like Leah said earlier, you need to really identify what you really need to do, discover who you are, what is your part, what is my course, and then identify the top 10 or the top 50 or the top 100 people who is going to help you to navigate those parts. And you also need to think about mentors and sponsors, people who are going to you're going to connect with in making or forging that sort of direction in terms of the contacts that you're making. Really, really important. Now, the second thing is, you have to make sure that these connections are meaningful. Okay, it shouldn't just be a waste of your time. You have to make sure that this is something that is going to really, really add value to you. Time is of the essence, and that there are certain people that may not understand your journey. Okay, and it is really important that you forge network with people who can make sense of your journey and can support you and nudge you forward and help you, kind of give you like a stepping stones on how you can navigate, those challenging moments. And another thing I always do, personally speaking, I do think about, when I try to network, how do I bring value? Because a lot of times when we're thinking about networking, we're thinking about how do we take, but it's about, I also think about what can I bring in terms of value? How can I give back to my networking or to my network in order to make me stand out? Really, really important that you think about that. I might not be able to give them a job because I'm not in a position to do that. I might not be able to allocate them a budget, for example, because I'm not in a position to do that. But there might be other things that I could do. And I've done this a lot of times. I might be able to volunteer. I might be able to take on some responsibility of them and do certain things. For example, I'm very good with technology. And I have offered to my network, during the pandemic, I have, offered to be in the back room and help them manage, their online events, or, just take the pressure off them. And that's something they found really valuable. And, those things have opened up a lot of opportunities to have these conversations about, okay, what do you really do? And then we begin to have those sort of conversations. So every time you think about going out to network with someone, think about what value potentially can you bring to that individual. And there is a power of social media now. I know it's not everybody's cup of tea, but if you're a professional and you really want to get yourself and your stamp out there, I cannot overemphasize how important social media is, and how you can actually use that to your own advantage. And finally, I would say follow up with your contacts. So you've identified 10 people, you've identified 50 people or 100 people. How do you maintain contact with them? I'm not suggesting in any way that you go stalking them, but think about how you can, set up meetings. Sometimes you have set up those meetings initially, but you find it very awkward to follow up later on. But you might want to think about your initial meeting with them and maybe write down some key details that you remember. Maybe you might want to follow up on that. Think about, what town do they live in? What's their favorite sport? What's their favorite hobbies? And maybe that's one way to reenact those conversations going forward. Now, I know 15 minutes is a short time to share, but I hope you've taken some value from some of the things that have been said, and also me sharing my own experience. Okay, I would just hand over to the moderator, and if there are any questions, I'm more than happy to take those.
Thank you very much, Amarachi, Dr. Amarachi. We are grateful. It's amazing, very insightful. Thank you so much. If there are a few things I really took away from your discussion this morning, is that networking is very good. We shouldn't shy away from it. It's a good investment portfolio, one. And being a good investment portfolio doesn't mean that we should just spread our net everywhere. We have to be conscientious and deliberate in choosing who these networks are and how they are going to be valuable to us. Because I've seen myself while I was growing up, maybe I've not really made up my mind which field I want to be. I've traveled to places going for international law, international bar associations, networking, but at the end of the day, I'm not now in the practice of law or litigation per se. So those are wasted, for me, those are wasted journeys, or sort of wasted networking. So it is, it's really bounces back to what you're saying. Let us actually understand what we want to do, how this network is going to help us, what is our field, and choose those ones that are very relevant so that we don't go wasting time. That's one very major thing I got from you. And also, how do we bring value? How do we give back to our network, not just thinking of what to get from them? That is a very good point I also took away. Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Amarachi. Question?
Someone is asking, how do you make time for networking with a young, busy family? Oh, wow. Tell me about that. I would say it's really challenging. And again, this is where we need to find a balance as women. We really need to find a balance. I always schedule everything. And that's something that's really been helpful for me on my journey. I schedule everything, including PTA meetings, every single thing I schedule. And if I have a networking event, I do schedule that. And Sometimes I pay for childcare, or sometimes I arrange with my husband, and we kind of, make time amongst ourselves on how we can, who does the, the childcare for that period. And that frees up time for me to go to networking events, because a lot of these networking events are evening events, and sometimes doesn't fit with a woman's schedule. But that's something I have done over my career. And like I said to you, you might not have time to go to every single networking event. So you have to be really strategic on which one you take on. Another question is, what is your advice for introverts that may find networking uncomfortable? Oh, wow. Yes, I know it's very uncomfortable. But one thing is, a lot of introverts find it difficult to go on to somebody and, start up a conversation with somebody. But one way you can do that, I could say, do it offline. I have some friends who are introverts. They find it very difficult to walk up in a conference and just, start a conversation, especially when someone has just spoken and people are all around them. They find it really difficult. One way they do it is they either wake up really early in the morning, go for breakfast and catch that person when that person is not with other people. Or a lot of them go back to their rooms, connect with them on social media, send them a message, and then they forge that connection that way. And sometimes introverts take their time because they want to be sure, they want to be comfortable. And I want to say, please do not go on to network with somebody just for the sake of it. It's a waste of your time, it's a waste of their time. Just make sure you're comfortable. Whatever works best for you, please take on. There are different ways you can network. And I don't always say that, face-to-face is a thing, especially for introvert. It might not be a thing for you, but there are other ways. So you might want to meet them offline and then take it online. Oh, sorry, online and then take it offline. So totally up to you. Something I wanted to add is that it is really, really important for women to support other women. And being a Black woman, sometimes I find it that sometimes on my journey, I had to fight a lot with other Black ladies. And I don't know if if I'm supposed to say this, but I found that at some point it was as if it was like a battle. It's like unhealthy competition. And I think it shouldn't be like that, because we can enrich ourselves with our experiences, and we can share and, build on each other's experience and just, climb together. We can do it. The sky is so big to accommodate every one of us. And it's just having that safe space and seeing that a sister understands me, understands my journey. Why do I have to shy away from that? So we can be exactly, Leah, we can be our sister's keeper. There's space for everyone to thrive. So I don't know if I answered the question. So thank you for having me.